3 minutes is a Michael-centric episode showing us what happened to him on island flashbacks this time. And just like the Claire-centric maternity leave, we'll do flashbacks first, then the present. It all starts with the events we've already covered. Michael has been chatting. The armor is a little bit smaller, he knocks out Locke and types with the one who may or may not be Walt. See my analysis on what Kate did, the 23rd Psalm and the hunting party for more. The person on the other side says that when they take him out, there's a giant rock with a hole in it, so if it was Walt, he had to communicate with his father telepathically, since there are no computers at this camp. If it is the others, then they tricked him.
I'm going after my son, and nobody is going to stop me, okay? Okay, that is my right. That is a father's right.
Michael treks up the valley, still filmed at Carava Valley in Kualoa Ranch. This grass field was seen earlier when Locke, Boone, Jack and Kate were following Ethan's trail. He comes upon Danny Pickett, holds him at gunpoint, struggles with Tom Friendly and engages in a firefight before being captured by the others. Kate is behind him, and so is Sawyer, Jack and Locke. The show is not perfect with its locations, so one unfortunate continuity error is the change here.
What are you doing? We need him!
Shell casings. How many? 3. Michaels.
You see the difference? Let's just say that the shells bounced off so far that they wound up in this jungle area. The others take Michael up north and then manage to capture Kate. It's nighttime. Locke loses track of Michael's trail and wants to return to the beach, but Jack refuses. As they are arguing, they are interrupted by Tom. We've already heard this conversation. Alex asks Michael about Claire, and when Tom returns with the guns, knocks Michael out. Day 54. While Charlie is having nightmares about Aaron, Tom, Friendly, Danny Pickett, Alex, and 2 others take Michael to the other's decoy village. It's a very long stretch, walking for 2 days, but they walk around here. The group is a lot smaller than the one at the line, so I guess that some might have walked back to the barracks, like this. I think they also move quite slowly. They arrive at the decoy village, a location with a Dharma door and a lot of huts. These are movable since we see them later in the show. This location was talked about a lot online, since it was revealed through photographs weeks in advance, circulating online by fellow Hawaiians, including Ryan Ozawa, who were snapping pictures and getting news scoops about the show. So many people knew about this location and were anticipating it. These were taken at the Kaiwi coast near Queen's Beach, close by the Makapu cliffs. This rock formation is interesting. It's already replacing the existing rock formation here. A tourist attraction actually, one called Pele's Chair. In Hawaiian myths, Pele was a goddess who created Hawaii, and it is believed that she was here right before she left Oahu to continue her work on the other islands, Molokai and Lanai. The rock formation we see in this episode uses Pele's Chair as a marker for a CGI build of a flat stone wall with a squared hole in the middle, and considering that we're seeing the photo statue in the next episode suggests to me that we're starting to peel off the onion layer into the grander picture of the show. I think that this is also part of an ancient building. It might have been destroyed in the same giant wave that crushed the statue in 1867, since the 2 locations are pretty close to each other. Could it be a home that Man in Black built and he was here watching the wave and the ship crash? Because this thing looks like the wall of a building with a window. There are also the theories that this place is tied to some sort of portal to the outside world, and the hole in the rock suggests a window. They take some blood. Pickett says,
In the funny pages.
Which is a reference to the comic section in newspapers. The mention of comic books and Walt makes me think of the comic book from last season. This comic book, Green Lantern and Flash Faster Friends Part 1, was connected with Lost and Walt and was featured on screen for some episodes. In this episode we learn that Walt has been imprisoned in a room.
They're not who they say they are.
Walt,
they're pretending!
You want me to put you in the room again?
Pretending what?
We later learn that he was in room 23. The characters in the comic have imprisoned an alien, one that crash landed on Earth in a flying saucer over 50 years ago. They codenamed him Alien X. and we see that he used his mind to control Flash and Green Lantern until they captured him, and the spaceship was taken to a secret location, while the government lied about it all. But the comic starts in the present. We start at a research station, possibly foreshadowing Walt's time in room 23 at the Hydra. This research station is top secret, with doctors wearing hazmat suits. He suddenly appears in front of a character and uses mind control so he can kill him. Walt is a younger version, unexperienced. The show implies that he made his mother sick.
You okay?
I think I'm feeling kind of flu-y.
Shouldn't we be studying birds of Egypt
You
or
haven't been
something?
sleeping much lately. Maybe you need to take a personal day.
I picked the bronze kahuku. It's funny. You want to see?
What about Barkley?
I mean, it doesn't look funny. Just a name.
Sleeping in late. That's too much.
Hey, Brian, look.
Pretty much the opposite of what Jacob does. He's giving a healing touch, while the man in black is tied with sickness. Later we see the alien again, suddenly appearing in the room, demanding the ship. In the second chapter, Flash and Green Lantern are looking for Alien X and finds him in a secluded location in Antarctica. Green Lantern uses his powers to unearth the spaceship. Many fans thought that this looked like a glass dome in the ocean, like Desmond described the island, but this is just the outer dome of the spaceship. A little bit later, Green Lantern encounters a polar bear, which is that iconic page we saw a few times in the show, the one from the pilot that sparked the idea that Walt was behind the polar bear. Javi Grisho-Marxuach, one of the writers in the show's early stages, said, Damon and JJ nevertheless gave themselves a backdoor into this area by putting the bear in a comic book that appeared both in the pilot and thereafter in the series. If the show had been suddenly cancelled after one season, then sure, it might have been a manifestation of his mind, and this fits with the way Walt was written into the pilot. When Malcolm David Kelly auditioned for Walt, he tried to act as the popular kid but was told otherwise in directing. They made me play him like I have special powers and I'm an outsider. Walt can think of something and it happens. He just doesn't know how to use his powers yet. It's quite cool that they had this idea for this character already when auditioning for the show. Later, Javi Grisho-Marxuach told us that, but the execution of the episode special apparently left plenty of wiggle room to give us plausible deniability, even as Damon would regularly come into the writer's room, throw up his arms and declare, of course Walt's psychic. In other cases, these things would come in through back doors and leave the same way very quickly. There was a time when, in order to appease the network's fear of sci-fi, the polar bear would simply be explained away as having been on the plane as freight. Needless to say, this idea came and then went. So yeah, some things will always change. The polar bear's appearance in the comic book now served as a foreshadowing for things to come, as other things in the comic. They find the real Alien X inside the dome, typing something on some sort of computer. He's sending a message and tells them that he's riddling with sickness. The comic ends with the alien self-destructing the ship. I wouldn't say the comic is revelatory for the show, but it gives some nice connections, especially the dangerous aspect of his character. Who knows what he could have done if he stayed on the island and became claimed by the Man in Black, a powerful villain. The author, Christian Piat, saw Walt's powers as a force of darkness, but the writer Person Moore has argued that the questions surrounding Walt are simple. His powers came from the island, and I think I agree with both. We will see Walt later again, in this episode and the finale, but he is now getting written out of the show. Lindelof and Cuse told Osiello in TV Guide on June 7th that the growth of Malcolm David Kelly will be addressed in the third season. Whatever ideas they had, they scratched it, since his growth wasn't addressed on the show. I was thinking they would do some kind of a reverse Richard Alpert, since Alpert appeared in season 3 as someone who doesn't age. Walt is the one that ages too quickly. Some have criticized the showrunners as not having a master plan for Walt when they wrote the story treatment, and that they should have the foresight of the actor getting too big, but Lost wasn't created with a fixed 6-year plan. Rarely do you see that with any show. No one could have predicted how big of a phenomenon it would be. When making a pilot for a show, you don't know if it'll have 1, 4, 6 or 10 seasons, or if it will even be a hit with the audiences. Variety reports that a little over a quarter of the pilots that are produced turn into a series, and even less are produced after the script has been written. ABC had now greenlit their most expensive pilot ever, and it all came from a short page story treatment. They even called J.J. Abrams when he was on set, asking if they could shoot an alternate ending and make it a standalone movie instead. The network Disney, after Lloyd Braun left and the show had no advocate anymore, was pretty much against the show. After they finished the pilot, they even suggested that they make 6 more episodes to conclude the show. Any plan whatsoever wouldn't have mattered anymore in that case. Malcolm David Kelly's height and age would never have been an issue. Even over the summer of 2004, many thought the show would tank.
They actually aired in the early commercials on ABC. They aired the footage as shot, and you see the polar bear jump, and when you freeze frame it, it is absolutely the dumbest thing you've ever seen. I mean, it is ridiculous. So Kevin Blank showed me that someone had not only seen that on TV, but had freeze framed it and posted it on the internet, which made the show laughable before it even aired.
Sure, the showrunners could have solved the situation differently. They didn't want to overly explain him either. In the February 4th, 2010 official Lost podcast, Carlton Cuse said that explaining the mechanics of how Walt attracts the birds would be very midi-chlorian.
Is it possible that Walt emits some sort of high frequency, sort of sound that only birds can hear?
I think that to explain exactly how Walt attracts birds would be very midi-chlorian.
In reference to the additional information we learned about the Force in Star Wars The Phantom Menace.
Ow!
There we are. Good as new. Obi-Wan?
Yes, Master.
I need an analysis of this blood sample I'm sending you.
Wait a minute.
I need a midi-chlorian count.
The reading is off the chart. Over 20,000.
Even Master Yoda doesn't have a midi-chlorian count that high.
No Jedi has. Midi-chlorians are a microscopic life form that resides within all living cells.
They live inside me.
Inside your cells, yes. And we are symbionts with them.
Symbionts?
Life forms living together for mutual advantage. Without the midi-chlorians, life could not exist, and we would have no knowledge of the Force.
But as it stands now, a lot is up to the viewer. Walt serves as a dark and dangerous foreshadowing to the game of candidates, the Man in Black and Jacob. Back to the show. Michael has been taken to the decoy village. Miss Clue first asks if Michael is Walt's father. Pickett probably took his blood back to the barracks and tried to determine if Michael was his biological dad, and check in their files whether or not Michael had been on the island before. The next question she asks is when Walt started speaking. As we know, Walt has spoken backwards to us.
That was quick.
Miss Clue might have supervised Walt when he was at the Hydra or somewhere else and seen him speaking backwards. She asks him about if he had any illness, headaches, fainting spells, which can suggest some form of connection to the island or the Man in Black. Similar things happened to Claire and Saeed.
You alright, sweetheart?
Yeah, a bit wobbly, but I'll live.
Well, I wouldn't be too sure about that. Can you go get some water? Yeah, on it. Saeed. Hey, how you feeling?
A little lightheaded.
This can be frightening because if he has a connection to the Man in Black, then that would be the opposite of what they are looking for. If they are looking for a potential protector or leader, surely someone with dangerous Man in Black tendencies wouldn't be ideal.
You're special.
How do you know all this? How do you know it will work?
I'm special. Walt's fine. He's a very special boy.
He's a very interesting kid. He's very smart. He's very special.
What do you mean, special?
Why? Because you're special. And I bet nobody's told you that in a very long time.
There's something about this boy. He has special powers.
Yes.
He can see things before they happen.
Her next question is more chilling.
He was halfway around the world. Why are you asking me all these questions?
Did Walt ever appear in a place he wasn't supposed to be?
Definitely about him appearing other places, even suggesting that Michael might have seen Walt despite Walt being on the other side of the world. To me, this means that Beatrice Clue might have heard or known about the way Jacob can appear to other people all around the world. We're moving from day 54 to day 62. Michael is still here. Miss Clue comes, and so does Juliet. They have quizzed him with questions for over a week. The questions are likely related to Walt trying to understand him and whether or not he should be kept there or let go. Fake Henry stressed out that they'll never give them Walt.
They'll never give you Walt.
But I think he might have learned some more information by going back to the barracks after his time in captivity, that despite his qualities, he's too dangerous to have around.
I'm not happy about the arrangement that was made with you, Michael, but we got more than we bargained for when Walt joined us, so I suppose this is what's best.
He doesn't have control over his abilities. Walt is now outside the tent and gets 3 minutes with his father. He says that they are making him do tests. I think the traditional Tibetan Buddhist ritual that Richard will test young Locke on might be one of the tests. Another one might be the test Dogen does on Sayid, but I'm not sure about it. Tom says that they gave Walt back in one piece, which suggests to me that they never really burned his skin like that, so not sure about that one. I mentioned in my video about orientation that we never saw a parapsychology station, but for all we know, they could have simply studied that directly at the barracks, or even at the Hydra, or somewhere else. Some of the tests Walt might have taken could have been classical mind-related tests like that. Walt leaves the tent, Michael gets the note with the names and some instructions. A little bit later we have the mobisode The Deal, where he meets Juliet, who confirms that she's glad that they'll release Walt with Michael. Juliet also confirms that Michael gets the boat. I like that Michael asked for the boat to begin with. After all, the others destroyed his boat, so he's just getting back that was taken. Walt and away off the island. After this scene, Michael will be taken back to the jungle, as I illustrated in my video about SOS. Back to the present. Michael goes out to burn his list. Jack gets him back to the living area, and they discuss how they're going to get there. He says that by leaving now, which is still midday, it would take them until the middle of the night tomorrow to get there. So a day and a half. This seems to fit with the other treks to the area. Hurley and Jack bring Libby to the beach. Sawyer and Kate bring Ana Lucia. Michael will stay behind to clean up the blood. While they are gone, Michael will find an empty bottle and start cleaning up. Echo comes and helps him. Michael gets sick and goes out to puke.
You alright?
Yeah.
Let's come in the back to check on you.
Yeah, man. I had to get out of there.
Jack is coming back to the Swan Station. They are relatively close to the beach camp due to the trees. This surrounding area is the area behind the beach camp. There has to be an off-screen scene here. Jack and Michael talk about the rock with a hole in it. You see, in the finale, Sayid will mention the rock that Michael described.
That's the rock Michael described. We're here.
However, Michael didn't tell Sayid anything about this. He didn't even want Sayid on the mission. So since Michael had some alone time with Jack, I think he told Jack about this. And when Sayid says that he suspects Michael to have been compromised by the others, Jack will mention this to Sayid about the rock with a hole in it. Michael and Jack go to the beach camp. Jack and Sawyer gather weapons for the mission, and Sayid asks and is welcomed by Sawyer to join. Sawyer tells Michael about it. Michael informs Sayid that he can't come. Echo is still at the Swan. Charlie enters the computer dome, and then Charlie leaves. Jack and Sawyer come back to load the guns.
You were supposed to come right back. You were out in the jungle all night. What happened?
We were unable to find Henry's trail.
Yeah, I got that.
Charlie throws out the statues. Locke leaves, heading back to the Swan Station. And quite suddenly, Desmond's boat comes back. And now we have the question, why didn't the others snatch the boat sooner? It was simply sitting here for 3 years. They never took it then, and they never boarded it, while Desmond was sailing in circles. The others have a sonar at the looking glass that they used to guide in the submarine into the barracks. And they still use the submarine well into season 3. I mean, a sonar can detect fish, wreckage, and much more in the ocean. In my video on Exodus, I also proposed the idea that the others use the sonar to track the raft. So why haven't they done anything about the sailboat for the past 3 years? The others could have discovered it the day Desmond got to the island. Kelvin told him later that he wrecked the boat pretty good, so maybe the others saw it enter the island and checked it out and simply saw that it was a boat wreck, so then just noted it down on their logs or something. It would be quite tiresome to call Ben every time they detected something on the sonar, especially with the eroding beaches and not to mention all the sewage, plastic and junk that the Dharma Initiative produced and the others produced and that unfortunately ended up in the ocean. And when Kelvin was moving the sailboat and fixing it, They just assumed the wreck was just moving with the waves. And also we don't know how well the sonar works on the island. It could be quite faulty. Or another way to look at it, they had gotten instructions to ignore it from Jacob, like leaving Desmond alone. It isn't until season 3 when Ben learns that the mid-section survivors have a sailboat.
And they have a sailboat.
How?
I have no idea.
So they have a boat. Sailing in circles will keep them busy.
They could find us.
How doesn't he know about it already? Well, maybe Ben was off the island the day Desmond came, and the Looking Glass people just didn't bother informing Ben. It was just a wreck, and they already had boats. It's the idea of a fully working sailboat, now owned by the midsection survivors, that shocked Ben. I guess that's my best guess, but maybe you have something else. The episode ends here and we continue the exciting story in the season 2 finale. See you then.